Welcome back to another episode of the Find Food Freedom podcast. This is your host, Sam Previtt, and I'm so excited that you're here. Now, today, if you clicked on this episode, it's probably because at some point, some person has asked you, are you pregnant? And you're not. Isn't that crazy that people think it's okay to ask that? This is the second time I have been asked if I am expecting or pregnant in the last year, less than a year. Happened to me in October. It is now, as I'm recording this, end of June. So I am really excited to get into the story time behind this and how much stuff has changed for me since October when it happened to me. I want to give you tips and tricks if this happens to you, which unfortunately I wish I could promise you that it won't because people should be smart enough to keep their body comments to themselves. But here we are. There's so much nuance to this conversation. I'm really excited to get into it. And for the Find Food Freedom win of the week, I'm actually going to tie it into this story. So I'm going to get to it kind of in the middle of the episode because I shared this story very short form. I'm talking like less than a minute in an Instagram story. I just said, hey, when I was out this weekend, someone asked me if I was pregnant, blah, blah, blah. Like I shared a little bit on it, and the comment section was wild in a great way. And I wanted to share someone's comment and how it affected me and so on and so forth. But let's get into the story time. Okay. So first off, I am going to link in the show notes below the story time, the episode where I had a loved one ask me if I was expecting back in October of last year. So I was around what, 6 months postpartum then. It was at a family wedding. So I'm gonna link that episode. If you've not listened to that one is a really, really good one to start with. It's not that you can't listen to today's episode, but that was part one of someone asking if I'm pregnant. And here's part two. And maybe we'll have a three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. Who knows? But today's story, I want to set the scene of how this happened. I want to talk about how the experiences were different. I want to talk about how my reactions were different because this has happened to me before. And then I want to just talk about a lot of other nuance that goes along with this and commenting on people's bodies in general. So let's set the scene. My friend slash manager, Maddie, is in town. She is someone who helps with our brand partnerships at Find Food Freedom, incredible human. So we were out and about, kind of gallivanting around town. I am usually in bed by 9 p.m. Let me make that very clear. I love my sleep. I barely drink alcohol. It's just kind of like here and there, maybe a social event. But Maddie and I were having a good old time. We had an incredible Italian meal. We got a little cacio de pepe. We got the amazing bread. We got meatballs. We had espresso martinis at the beginning of our meal. Like we had the vibes were high. Vibes were high. Then we kind of start skipping along to other establishments, if you will, in the beach towns. We're at a little beachfront bar, just enjoying our nights without children, hanging out. So we're at this bar. It's the last bar that we go to on this nightly adventure. And we're in line to get probably our last beverage of the night. Please keep in mind, I have a high noon in my hand. I like to call them nooners. They're called high noon. They're a little vodka, like seltzer drink. So I have one in my hands because we're at an outdoor bar. It's so freaking hot out, whatever. And this girl, I say girl because I don't even know if she was a woman. She might have been underage at this bar, but then again, I just feel like I'm so old in my like I feel old at this bar. And this girl, I'm in line, right? And this girl kind of like shimmies in front of me to like get over to the trash cans to throw something away. And so kind of like leans in, she goes, "Oh my God, are you pregnant?" And like again, you're expecting this question, right? Like you're never expecting it. So I go, no. I like match her tone because I just like I didn't know what to say in that moment. She goes, oh, and like walks away. That was it. Literally, that was the interaction. I look at Maddie. Maddie looks at me. Maddie's like, do you want me to say something? She doesn't say that, but um, she, you fucking kidding me? Like, and I was like, hey. We're all good. Doesn't matter. This says more about her than it does about me. This has happened to me before. I'm Gucci. Like we're good here. Like we don't need to say anything to her. Like we're not, like we're good. So, anyways, it was time for us to pack it in that night. It was time for us to go back to get a nice good slumber at our hotel. So it was like that was it. It was kind of just like that was it. Well, I posted about this, right? And I also shared with Grace, our social media manager, who's also one of our dietitians on our team. And obviously, she saw the content and she was the one who asked me this really great reflective question. She's like, I wanted to hear from you. Like, how was this different for you and your body? Like, how did you, emotionally handle that? Versus the last time it happened to you because she listened to the previous podcast and she has clients who have experienced this. We all at Find Food Freedom, we collectively support hundreds of humans, and a lot of our clients are women. And this is unfortunately, I'm learning through when I share on Instagram, this happens to people all the time. So, um, I want to get into the differences. First off, of course, let's start with the plain and simple. It is not okay to ask a human if they are pregnant. I can't believe in 2025 I have to say that. It's not okay to ask someone if they're pregnant. Now, if you're someone who's listening to this and you're like, "Holy shit, I've done that and the person wasn't pregnant and I feel so much shame and guilt right now." Please release that. When you know better, you can do better. I've had people commenting about that, and I can't stress enough. Like, we all, especially when we're all entrenched in diet culture, that's our life. Like, that is society. So, people think it's normal to ask that and comment on people's bodies. On my TikTok, when I shared it, someone was like, a woman could be crowning in front of me, and I will not ask her if she is pregnant. And I was like, that's incredible. I'm stealing that. Um, but so, like, let's just say that, right? But it's like, no shit. Of course, we shouldn't be asking women that. Okay. So let's go back to Grace's question she asked me of like, how did you handle it differently? If you go listen to part one or the first time this happened in the show notes below, you can find that episode. I'm going to give you like the very quick pitch of that. I was able in the moment when it happened to me with a loved one, I was able to like swiftly get away, but then it really did emotionally like ruin my night. And not because of the loved one asking me, like, don't get me wrong, that wasn't like great, but I was more pissed at myself and upset with myself when it happened the first time of how much it was bothering me. So it's like the comment itself, like coming from the person, I wasn't mad at the person. I wasn't mad, but I was pissed at myself being like, you're an intuitive eating counselor. You help people with this shit and you aren't able to bounce back from this. Like I was beating myself up more about it. And I was able to process that and get through it. And again, I talk a lot about that in that first episode. So this time around, I was able to use my reflecting that I did in the previous time it happened to me. I definitely felt more like prepared of it happening. And I did it feel good? No. Did it didn't ruin my night. It definitely like killed the vibe. We were like, what? But it didn't derail me. Like I was so able to recognize like when someone asks this, it is a direct reflection of their relationship with their body and their take on bodies in general, and it has nothing to do with me. Now, what I really want to get into more on today's episode, though, is once I shared it on social media, how people were responding to me about the situation. And there's so much nuance in that. So I shared that this happened, and the amount of people that commented and personally DM'd me, you don't even look pregnant. Like, you don't look pregnant. That person's a hater. Like, those kind of comments. Those didn't sit right with me. And that made me start reflecting. And it was so interesting, like, such a great learning experience. And I'm so excited to like share this with you because at the end of the day, sure, we just said it's not okay to ask someone if they're pregnant. And it's not okay to comment on people's bodies, period. So when people are now coming into the comment section and being like, you don't even look pregnant, that's commenting on my body, right? Now, the difference is when someone is asking, are you pregnant? They're insinuating that you are in a larger body or that there is some sort of reason you look pregnant. And that is different than if you're saying, oh, you don't even look pregnant. People are saying that as like a compliment, right? Even some people commenting like she was probably a hater. That made me think like, okay, you think fat is bad, right? So there's a lot of internalized fat phobia here, but then also this like weird ass backwards way of people thinking they're complimenting me by saying you don't even look pregnant. I want to remind you that complimenting the size of somebody's body or complimenting weight loss is not a compliment. We also have an entire podcast on that, where I do a deep dive. I'm going to link it below. I do a deep dive with a client who started to get a lot of people saying, like, did you lose weight? Oh my God, you look fabulous. And he had been working with us for years and his body did change, and how that made him feel really uncomfortable that people were commenting on his body, but in a different way, right? It wasn't oppression or discrimination from when he was in a larger body. Now it was people complimenting him being in a smaller body, but that still feels fucked up. So, where I want to go with this, though, because I am so open about myself and my body, is I want to talk about the nuance here because I think this is so important for people to think about. And I'm saying this again, there is a probability that if you were with a friend or if you were friends with someone and they shared this, you would also say you don't even look pregnant. Like, I understand why people say that. I'm not, I hope you know, like, anyone, if you commented that on my post, like, there's no hate or shame to you. I just think it's a very teachable moment. So first of all, this makes me think of a lot of different things, and I scribbled everything in my notebook. First and foremost, on the Find Food Freedom Instagram page, TikTok page, even here on podcast directly of me speaking to camera, I do not show my body on camera and in pictures and videos often intentionally. Now, it's really hard to teach and to educate to not even like show your face because people have to know who you are. But you'll notice a lot of my content is like tits up, right? Like from the chest up, you can see my head, you can see my neck, you can see my shoulders, but you can't see my body. And there's a couple different reasons for this. The first and foremost, the most important is that nobody, nobody benefits from seeing my body online. And this took me a while to learn as I was doing the unlearning of diet culture and learning about intuitive eating and body positivity and all of these things. I reside in a straight sized body. What I mean by that is my body is, I'm using heavy air quotes, like socially acceptable to diet culture, right? No matter what I do, I'm in a pretty normal, very heavy air quotes for those of you listening, body where I can walk into a store and they're going to carry my clothing size, right? Like I can go to a medical office and know that I'm going to be able to sit in a chair, even if it has handles on the side, because I live in a body that is air quotes socially acceptable by diet culture standards. So if I am talking about body acceptance and health at every size and intuitive eating, which is applicable for every sized body, and fat acceptance and body acceptance is a huge part of that. If I am showcasing my body on my Instagram page, even if my intention is not for people to intentionally lose weight, if you hear me talking about intuitive eating and my relationship with food and my relationship with my body, and I am in a smaller body, you are subconsciously going to connect that to if I eat or if I do X, Y, and Z, maybe I will look like Sam, or maybe weight loss will happen for me, or whatever it may be. And that is something that took me a while to learn. I have a lot of my colleagues to thank for that who reside in larger bodies. Bree Campos, Body Image with Bree. Our team has done a ton of continuing education and supervision with her. And years ago, I remember her kindly, I'm going to say it, calling me in, not, I guess you could say calling me out, but she called me into conversation with her of like, hey, I understood what you were trying to do with this post, but did you think about how this would affect the people in your audience that reside in a larger body? And I had to hear that from her to recognize like showing my body online isn't going to help anyone. Now, again, I'm still going to show my face. I still want to connect with you. Like, I still want you to know who I am as a human, but I don't show my body. And what I mean by that is like, I feel like a lot of people don't do this anymore, or at least I just don't see it. But circa like 2020, I feel like everybody was doing that, like this or that post. And I would see a lot of even people in the intuitive eating space on the side being like, something that they used to think that was diety and then like their brain now and how it's not diety, but it would like show their full body. And all of the people doing these posts were like skinny white girls. So then, of course, whoever's seeing that, you're like, oh, well, if I do intuitive eating, I will be thin. And so it is something that I have curated for years to like I don't want my body on my page. My body is not my business card. My body has nothing to do with intuitive eating and the information. It's just the vessel that carries my brain and my soul. Look how deep that shit was. Okay. So, now why I want to say this is I have had two babies, okay? When a body goes through childbirth, it fucking changes. Our bones grow, our hips grow. With my second, I had a four-finger gap of diastasis recti. I have a bulge because I reside in a straight size body from like tits up, don't look that pregnant, from stomach down, I do have a bulge. Like, I'll be honest, I do look pregnant, especially when I wear certain clothing. Now, that doesn't matter though, because you shouldn't comment on someone's body, right? It doesn't make an excuse for anyone to ask that. Now, I say that because so many people are commenting, like, you don't even look pregnant. Like, in my head, I'm like, actually, I do. Like, I understand why that person asked it. Doesn't make it right. But I also want to validate that there are probably hundreds of people listening to this podcast that haven't had children, that never had children, that don't plan to have children. And they have been asked if they're pregnant. Now, that alone, I want to recognize is a privilege that I hold, that like I have never been asked, are you pregnant before having children? Because my body looked a different way before children. I have carried two children. I have very large babies. They were both like 8 pounds, 10 ounces plus. I've gained definitely a large amount of weight with both pregnancies. I have four-finger gap. I had a C-section. Like all of these things that like my body is different. It makes sense why somebody would ask me if I'm pregnant. But what a privilege it is that like I understand why people are asking that. Now there are people that reside in larger bodies that again don't have kids, have never had kids, don't want kids, and they are getting asked if they are pregnant. That we need to recognize is different even than what I am going through. And I think that is such an important piece of this conversation. We're also going to talk about how those who reside in larger bodies that are pregnant or have carried children sometimes don't even get asked, are you pregnant? Or like, oh, how far along are you? Which again, I really don't think we should be asking people, but because they don't, air quotes, look pregnant. So that's where I want to get to today's Find Food Freedom win of the week is when I shared a video on this. I kind of was like breaking down and responding to the comment of someone telling me, hey, you don't even look pregnant. They must be a hater. I'm like, actually, like, let's not comment that either. Like, let's not lose the plot of like, we shouldn't be commenting on bodies, period. Right? Like, period, end of story. So then I went on to talk about what I just shared here. And somebody commented this. They said, wow, I didn't know I needed to hear someone acknowledge the grief around not looking pregnant in a larger body. And then there were a plethora of comments underneath that were like, yep, I never got the perfect basketball. I had a B-shaped belly and I had a lot of feelings about it. Someone else wrote, same, but I never heard anyone else talk about this until today. That's insane. So I want to talk about, so when I say Find Food Freedom win of the week, like usually at the beginning of the episode, I will share a comment, a DM, a client win, like in session, something that is celebrated. And it's usually a little different than this, where someone's like, oh, like I didn't have shame around eating this, or I was able to go to a wedding and dance the night away, or it's more like happy go lucky win. But I read that comment and I was like, fucking right. Like, that's what this is all about, creating a space, especially as someone that holds thin privilege and resides in a smaller body. I want people of all sizes to feel comfortable on our page. And for me to go to and talk about, like, someone asked me if I was pregnant, like, I understand why. And then it's interesting to think about, like, when you really think about my colleagues, my friends, our clients, our community members that reside in larger bodies that don't have, like, think about in your head right now, close your eyes and think about a pregnant person. If you think about, or think about a pregnant person that you see on TV, right? That you see in a doctor's office on a pamphlet. They're usually this perfect little stick figure with a round, big, hard basketball type bump, right? That is what you visualize when you visualize someone who's pregnant. And so for those who reside in larger bodies, their pregnancies are valid. Their pregnancies are worthy. Their bodies are worthy. And yet sometimes they are never acknowledged for how incredible their body is because people can't see it the way that these air quotes perfect pregnancies like look, right? And I'm using heavy air quotes on the word perfect. So it's really, really interesting to think about because I have sat in session with people that resided in larger bodies and we grieved together that they were pregnant, but people aren't holding the door for them. Or people, when they're like looking at baby clothes at TJ Maxx or whatever, people aren't like, oh, when are you due? And again, like, I recognize that that can be really fucking annoying when people are asking you that because it's like, I don't even tell personal, like, people in my personal life about this. I don't need to tell a stranger. But it's important to acknowledge. It really, really is. And it is also important to acknowledge that for those who have not had children, never want children, are choosing to be child free, or just maybe someday will have them but don't currently, and are asked if they're pregnant, it is not okay to comment on their bodies. And that's fucked up. We have uteruses. We have fat on our bodies. We are supposed to. And you know what? The first time I was asked by a man. This time it was a woman who asked me. And if a man ever asks me if I'm pregnant, I got it locked and loaded. I'm going to be like, no, are you? Because it's wild to me that, generally speaking, a man is never going to be asked this question. They're not going to have comments on their body. But the amount of females, just because we are childbearing, right? It is something our body is capable of, that people think it's just okay to ask this. Okay. So I want you to hold on to the mantra, which I believe I really nailed down in episode, like the first episode about this, that when someone makes a comment, a thought, an opinion on your body, it has everything to do with their own relationship with their body and how they view bodies in the world, and nothing to do with you personally. Is it fucked up? Yeah. The image trip all be present role what other people say to us, right? We can only prepare and role play like how we can respond, right? Like, let's pretend you've never been asked this before. If you were this by a stranger, if you were asked this by a loved one, what would you say? Right? How would it make you feel? And these are the things that I think, as I've gone through and done the body image work, and what I mean by that is really just assessing my relationship with my ever changing body, it has been such a rewarding experience, such a challenging experience of understanding that I can't control what other people say and do, but I can work on my own relationship with my body. And that is going to be the most beneficial thing. I also want to make it so crystal clear that people in all body sizes, it doesn't matter what body size you are. I don't care. I do not care. All body sizes can have body image issues, can struggle with body image. Period. End of story. But please hear me when I say that those who reside in larger bodies have an incredible amount of oppression, discrimination, weight stigma, fat shaming done to them simply for existing in their body. And that is two very different things. Okay. So that I should have like started with that at the beginning of this episode. I feel like I just went in like 5,000 different directions here. My notebook has scribbles all over it, but I think I got to everything. And I just want to thank you for being here because it really allowed me to share what has been going through my head since less than a week ago when this happened. So if you found this episode helpful, thank you for being here. Please rate, review, subscribe. Holy shit, this was so helpful. I could really use one-on-one support. Please know that we have 14 incredible registered dietitians and certified intuitive eating counselors, and we do take health insurance. So we take United, Cigna, Aetna, BCBS, over 100 insurance plans, and we're licensed in 22 states. So please get your benefits checked. You can click that link in the show notes below, anywhere on Instagram, TikTok. Like, please, please, please get your insurance benefits checked. We would love to support you. Thank you for being here and being my bestie and letting me just like dump all of this on you. And I cannot wait to connect with you next week. Bye.